Hello, whole community. As you know, within what we do, we try to keep it in our community when we talk about healing. We there for each other. And during today's episode, I have my dear, dear brother here, Alaska. Anybody that knows us knows that, we're literally like womb siblings.
That was my little brother.
I am his little brother, I guess, right? But we came together and thought it was really important to share your traumatic experience, but most importantly, focus on how you were able to heal from it. With that said, I would like you to tell us what your experience was and what you went through.
Sheesh.
I know.
Right? Ultimately, this like story of suffering, right? We all have to suffer. Just naturally, humans just suffer.
Yeah.
And as much you try to avoid that, the deeper you get into your dark web of creating a false life, a false appearance. And sometimes people naturally just come to this moment of awakening, like, oh, let me just shift my life. Let me just change this, or
like an epiphany or something,
right? Or sometimes the universe, God, higher power, whatever you want to call it, may just allow a thing to happen that sparks that awakening. So for me, there's a chain of events of losing things that I attach my identity to. If it was my mother, I was a mama's boy, so that was my identity. So I lost my mother, then I was like, oh shit. Then it keeps on going, but when you think you have it figured out, or you think you've like, all right, shit, I've experienced suffering, I lost my mom, I lost my career, or I lost my God, I almost lost my relationship. You think like, after you rebuild these structures in your life or these verticals, you're like, all right, cool, let's take on life. And then the thing you don't expect to happen
happens.
Is what hits you. And for me, that was just my daughter was born. 2 hours later, she passes away. Having to see your partner or your wife go through the full term, give birth to a child, so go through the uncomfortable moments. Prior to that, we hated each other. So the thought of the baby gave us a chance to kind of like, oh shit, okay, let's get our shit together. And it's not about us. And as you see your partner step up to the occasion of anything, a job, career, championship, or giving birth, giving life, it makes you respect that person so much more. So the healing was happening throughout the midst of this. You know what I'm saying? Down to actually, baby comes out and they're like, do you want to touch her and hold it? I was like, oh my God. I was like freaking out, right? Yeah. So I'll go run and hold the baby.
And she was crying when she came out?
No, that she wasn't responsive. She like kicked, but she wasn't responsive. If you know what death feels like, or when my mother passed away or whatever, I felt this emptiness where I was kind of like, oh, fuck. NICU team had the table before the incubator, just pumping. Had me go over there, want me to touch her, see if my energy would like help. I'm stuck in between two worlds at that moment. So it's like, I know my wife is over there. I'm sitting with the child, kind of like, what the fuck? And Kim looks up, she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh no, I was like, I don't know, I'm just watching, babe, I'm just watching. I like, didn't want to speak on it, but it's like, the feeling just kept growing and growing. I was like, fuck, God, please don't do this shit right now. They're pumping her heart for 2 hours. I have to go upstairs to the ICU with her now. She's incubated. I have to sign off on like, we need a blood transfusion. We need to make sure that the blood we're giving her it's not affected with HIV or anything. Please sign off here. And they're asking me to do all these things. I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm just like numb.
Right.
Because I'm just sitting there for like 2 hours just staring at them working on it. I'm just like working. I'm just like, yo. I was like, I can't believe it. And the fucked up part is like just watching yourself not being able to do nothing. So you're just sitting there watching like, all right, okay. Sign here. What are they doing? They're putting these things to her belly button. You see like her pigment getting darker and darker. And I'm just like, you know what the outcome is. After a while, I'm just kind of like, yo, just stop. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I don't want to see this anymore. Like, I can't even get my mouth to say this shit. It's like, I want this whole scene to stop. Like, it's not how I intended it to be. I don't want to see what's going on right now. Then they walk up to me and it's like, we're going to stop because we're doing more damage than... I'm like, all right. It's like, all right, we have to go get your wife now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to tell this woman what? I mean, y'all got to tell her. I was like, I got to tell her. First and foremost, I can't... She goes through all that shit. And when you give birth to the child comes out, you want to pay off, and I have to tell her, it's like...
Yeah.
I couldn't tell her shit. I couldn't say, the words couldn't come out my mouth. I was like, babe, I'm so proud of you. I'm trying to, she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, So they escort her upstairs. I'm walking. She's in a wheelchair. Craziness, right? It's crazy because the thing is about and these are the rationing thoughts that you come with yourself.
Right.
As soon as the baby came to, term and all that happened, the healing started like on the tail end and like immediately talking about boom, 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 boom.
Between the two of you.
Between everything in my life. Like literally, whoever's your life purpose, it could be accomplished in 3 years, 6 years, 10 years,
Right,
20,
right.
50, 100 years, hopefully. Sometimes this shit goes like this, 2 hours. And like the pain I felt at that moment, I feel like I felt the pain of what a beautiful young girl will put his father through throughout her whole teens, development, marriage, all that shit hit me immediately at once. Like every pain I ever felt, I've never felt anything like that, hit me right there. And then all the healing, me and my dad, we were like fucked up for years. He called me his child for the first time. I fucking melted. He's like, oh, my child. And I was like, I didn't know I needed to hear that. I was like, why? He's like, oh, my child, sometimes we have no answer. And I just fucking melted. I was like, Dad, that's all I wanted from you all these years, man. I just wanted you to call me your child. So like all this shit is happening. I was like, and the crazy thing as the observer now, right, just watching myself go through my experience versus being so subjected to my experience. Right. I'm watching these things happen. I'm kind of like, yo, God, like, fuck, thank you for healing.
Where are you now in your healing process?
For me, healing is an ongoing process. The suffering, that's a norm, right? And it's constantly waking up in these different areas. If it's financially, if it's relationship, if it's health-wise, these are the areas of train. So I'm constantly healing. I'm grateful for the experiences that allow me to heal or allow me to wake up from my suffering. Because no one suffers consciously.
Absolutely.
Right? It's unconscious suffering. Once you're conscious of the thing, you're no longer suffering. Like you're aware of it. So it's like, oh, shit's here?
Yeah.
All right, I'm aware of it now.
You can look at it.
Look at it and deal with it.
That's something I think is really hard to see when you're in the midst of being encapsulated by something as traumatic as you just described.
Right.
And
right.
Sorry, but and it's like, how do you even bring yourself to say, like how you said you went through the options, right? Drugs, alcohol, mad whore, or you ran down the list of like how do I destroy myself the fastest because I feel ruined inside.
Word.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's exactly where those options take you.
Yeah.
But what was it for you that made you choose peace and your continuous healing journey versus destruction?